Were you able to access and watch? Hello? Can you turn your videos on, please? Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, thank you to everyone who's turning on their videos, and call to the others, paki-on. It's one thing to not hear you answer and another thing to not see. So let's use 30 minutes of our time to discuss any questions that you may have, but that will only work if you've already accessed the material. May I see a show of hands, please? Virtual hands. Sino na nagbasa or nakakita man lang? Or who has gone as far as to see na you can access the material? Okay, thanks for that answer. Hindi pa po tapos basahin. Sige. That's good. At least malang i-check nyo na ma-open nyo siya. That you can access the Google link and that you see the video and the PDF. Okay. Thank you sa mga sumasagot sa private chat. So, sa hindi pa nakabasa or nakapagbukas, I gave you two topics. One is qualitative research. The other one is named Introduction to Synthesis of Research, but it is focused on systematic review and meta-analysis. So, sa mga nagbasa na, any questions? Any clarifications you'd like to make? Okay, salamat sa nagsabing pero not deeply understand pa po. Okay, let me take a few minutes to just go through basically what I said in the lecture. Let's talk about qualitative studies first. Before I talk about it, is there anyone in the group who has already been part of a team that did qualitative research? Sino nang may experience sa qualitative research? Okay, I see Hannah's thumbs up. Meron ka na, Hannah?
Yes po, Doc. Since yung undergrad ko po is heavy on qualitative research, applied psychology po kasi frequently encouraged talaga na qualitative studies yung ginagawa, especially
What
for
did
mga
you,
thesis.
what was your
What was
topic?
your topic?
My thesis po, Doc, was a phenomenological study about the sexual preferences of bottom gay men po. So, phenomenological. Bottom gay men po.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I would think very difficult or very challenging ang ethical aspects niya, no? For
Yes
approval
po.
and all. Okay, okay. That's good. At least there's at least one person who has been in it. So what I did in the lecture was largely to differentiate quantitative from qualitative studies. Sa atin kasi, mostly in medical research, up until the recent decades, the focus of research studies has always been quantitative, getting summary statistics, proportions, means, getting the bell curve, the normal curve, seeing generalizability with the power of the study, computing for the sample size. So parang yun yung nasanay tayo. And when you go into research methods, when you plan your protocol, you will see that a large number of you will probably veer towards quantitative studies, but we do allow qualitative studies under the guidance of a faculty advisor who has experience and knowledge in qualitative studies. So the difference is well obvious from the start. When quantitative studies deal with numbers and formulas and generalizability, qualitative studies usually take the approach of the narrative, dealing deeper with the hows and whys of things rather than just the what and the where and the simple direct questions. In data collection, normally when we do quantitative studies, we give data collection instruments like survey tools or validated questionnaires, and then we give them to a number of people in order to satisfy a sample size that we compute for. In qualitative studies, we don't actually compute for a sample size. Um, this is because the point of determination na sapat na ba or tama na ba itong mga nakuha kong tao na sasagot is different. It's reckoned in a different way. So the reckoning usually entails the concept of saturation. So pag qualitative study ang ginagawa, saturation means pwede ka nang tumigil ng pagkuha ng respondents kapag dumating sa point na ang mga sagot ay halos pare-pareho na lang. So saturation is that, that break point wherein given the same questions, participants and respondents will basically answer with something that has already been given as an answer. And then the analysis of qualitative studies would be different from quantitative in the sense that you go into thematic analysis. Well, of course, if you're doing phenomenological. So if you look through the lecture, you will see that there are different approaches. And in the lecture, I touched on grounded theory, ethnography, and phenomenological studies. So the last one is the one that we most commonly employ when we do quali studies here in school, when you go to second year and plan your protocol, and then you do your study in third year. A word of caution to individuals who may be aware of that, ayaw naming mag-compute ng sample size or natatakot kaming di kami aabot sa sample size. Sige, magkakwali na lang kami para hindi na kailangan mag-compute. Madalas ko yun marinig. It's a common misconception that is possessed by many young students, no? But you must realize that that possibly is a very superficial way of looking at the difference. Of course, totoo naman yon. Di ka magko-compute, hanapin mo lang, parang sasabihin mo na we will stop data collection when you've reached the point of saturation. But doing a qualitative study requires of course, a certain knowledge of the difference, of the approaches, and then it takes also a certain sensitivity. Katulad ng nabigay na example ni Hannah, pag minsan ang qualitative study, mas akma siya dun sa mga bagay na gusto mong makuha ang istorya. What is the story behind this group of people, whether they are people who are sick with the disease or possibly people who are caring for people with a certain disease? It's usually the story that you want to get. The most common methods of collecting data are focus group discussions and key informant interviews, at least as far as phenomenological studies are concerned. So yung key informant interviews, ikaw as the interviewer along with the team na kasama mo, usually ang isa ay note taker, ang isa ay transcriber. Yung note taker, para siyang taga-observe. Kasi ang sagot nabibigay yan verbally, pwede rin siya nabibigay non-verbally. For example, tinanong mo ng question, hindi sumagot, pero bumuntong hininga, o kaya nagtaas ng kilay, o kaya tumingin sa taas. Even those types of body language, the non-verbal communication, dapat nahuhuli yon ng note taker. So usually when you do key informant interviews, team din kayo, you're a small team, mainly the interviewer, the note taker, and the transcriber. Tapos in some instances, depende dun sa, um, you know, yung pagiging delicate ng issue. Sometimes may psychologist who's also present in the meeting. And before the pandemic, we largely did qualitative studies face-to-face. So parang nandun yung challenges nung makahanap ng kwarto na tahimik, na walang ibang nakakarinig. It's very different from when you imagine may questionnaire ka, tapos sabihin mo sa tao, pakisagot po, pakisagot, pakisagot, and then you just find a seat for them, then they answer, and nobody would have to know what they said, right? Because pagkasagot nila, bibigay lang nila ulit yung papel sa'yo, or pag binigyan mo ng Google link. But in qualitative studies, kasi may conversation, for me, I usually call it an officialized conversation or an officialized story. Or maybe it's like a conversation na one-sided. Kasi ikaw na interviewer, binibigay mo yung questions. By the way, you call parang the questionnaire thingy. You don't really call it a questionnaire, but you call it an interview schedule. So usually, ito yung guide mo for questions that you give. And the questions are not as stiff or as formal as the ones in a survey sheet or in a standardized questionnaire. Meaning, meron kang leeway or wiggle room to adjust yung tinatanong mo at yung pamamaraan ng pagtatanong mo base sa anong sinasagot sa'yo. So generally, the guide is there to just keep you on track, but depende kasi dun sa galing mo na or skill and acumen as an interviewer, you can bring the conversation to this part or this other part depending dun sa sinasagot ng iyong respondent. But it's a one-sided conversation is in a sense kasi ikaw na interviewer, hindi ka magbibigay ng sagot mo. Parang hinahanap mo lang yung isasagot niya sa'yo. And usually the qualitative studies, the phenomenological in particular, are conducted to see what meaning participants give to a certain thing na nangyari or nangyayari sa kanila. So rather than ask them fixed multiple choice questions or true or false questions in a questionnaire, we ask them parang open-ended questions wherein they have the ability or the capacity to expound and to qualify their answers kung anong answer man yung mapigay. And sometimes the depth of the answers will rely on how good or skilled you are as an interview. So parang may tao kasi na sobrang magkwento, may tao rin na hindi gano'n nagkukwento. So ikaw, as interviewer, dinidecide mo yon as you go along. Tama na ba yung nakuha kong sagot or kailangan ko pa ba siyang tanungin ng iba pa? Okay, so may isang question ako in the chat box. Good afternoon, Doc. May I ask when is the best time to use the mixed method study? Under what circumstance or research topics po usually? During undergrad po kasi, one of my professors said that mixed methods is more advanced na po. Thank you. So, yes, I agree with that. You may think of mixed methods as more advanced because, as I showed you in the lecture, no, I have that diagram there na 1 plus 1 equals 3. So yung paggawa mo ng mixed methods research is like you'll do the quantitative part, you'll do the quantitative part, pero hindi sapat na ni-report mo lang yung quanti tsaka quali. A true mixed method study will combine the two. So parang meron ka pang isang study, which is the mixing. Kasi in the mixing, meron kang mga data conversion, meron kang mga data transformation, and then you make sense of everything that you do. Like, yung sinasabi ba nung quanti part mo, nag-agree ba siya dun sa quali part mo? Tapos put together, do they actually make sense and parang say the same thing? Iba-iba yung approach ng mixed methods. Meron yung tinatawag nating convergent. Yung convergent, yung gagawin mo siya na sabay. Um, yung convergent parallel, yun yung parang bagong terminology. Pero in the past, parang ang tawag sa kanya concurrent triangulation. Kung di ako nagkakamali. Parang yun yung tawag sa kanya a decade or half a decade back. But the more current typology in the recent, yung pinaka-recent or the latest version of Creswell's book is that I think they call it convergent parallel. So parang sabay mo silang gagawin. So ang implication nun, hindi ka pwedeng gumawa ng mixed methods research na ikaw lang mag-isa. Kasi kunyari convergent siya na sabay, paano ka how could you be in two places at one time? So parang siguro pwede ka as overseer, but generally you have a team. Sabay nilang ginagawa yung quali tsaka yung quanti. Ngayon, meron din namang merong tinatawag na exploratory tsaka explanatory. These are details of mixed methods na hindi nyo kailangan tandaan lahat, pero meron kasing pag-aaral na uunahin mo muna yung quanti, tapos yung quali. Kasi parang gagamitin mo yung latter quali as the thing to explain the answers in the quanti. Pwede rin naman na uunahin mo muna yung quali. Kasi nag-e-explore ka pa. Ano ba ang mga stand or kaalaman tungkol sa bagay na to, for example, na pinag-aaralan nyo. So, wala pang existing na tool, kunyari. So, you do an exploratory first, meaning uunahin mo yung qualitative, tapos saka ka magpo-quantitative. Pero, by and large, I would think parang pinaka-common yung convergent, yung sabay na ginagawa. So I hope that that answers your question, and thank you. Thank you for that question. Okay, as to whether anong topics ang magandang tignan, ito parang mahirap magbigay ng exact example pero I would think yung mga medyo sensitive na hindi mo makukuha yung buong the richness of the experience, hindi mo siya makukuha just by asking. I think, ano yan, appropriate yan for mixed methods. For example, the general topics, ano lang to parang by and large, parang very general estimate. I would think topics about sex and sexuality would lend well to mixed methods or qualitative for that matter. Things about chronic disease and caring for the sick over a long period, marami yon makukuhang richness of detail and information and human experience in a qualitative study. And better yet, if you mix it with a quantitative one. And then I would think the experience of death and dying is another thing na napakalalim para lang siya i-tick off, multiple check boxes in a survey tool. So I think yung mga yan, kailangan bigyan ng pamamaraan or panahon para ma-explore at mailabas yung mga answers. But generally kasi, sometimes hindrance din yung parang may certain taboo pang naka-attach sa mga ganong bagay na hindi madaling pag-usapan, hindi madaling buksan. But I think with open minds as researchers, eventually we'll get to the point na pati yung, the finer nuances and the finer details of living, such as those things, ay makuha rin natin with our researches. Okay? So, it's 2:19. I'll spend the rest of the time for the SR meta. Pero I hope kahit papano may insight na kayo dun sa qualitative, and I hope you will get to understand or appreciate better the lecture material that's given to you. So with regard to systematic review and meta-analysis, I started the material with a broad look at the types of reviews. But basically, I was leading you to systematic review and meta-analysis, which is like the highest point of the highest level of evidence when you're talking about interventions, no? So basically, ang ginagawa ng SR Meta, kaya siya nasa synthesis of research, kasi pinuput together niya or pinagsasama-sama na niya lahat ng research na nagawa sa isang particular research question or what we call a review question. So yung pagkakasama-sama ng lahat, that is loosely applied kasi yung lahat will depend dun sa makukuha nyo, which in turn will depend on how good your search is done, on how well you have designed your search strategy. Now, the term systematic review and meta-analysis are two different terms. So, it's not correct to just put in your title, kunyari, meta-analysis, and think that it's the same. Hindi. The systematic review is, well, one, the name of the study design, and number two, it's the method of doing that very rigorous methodology of searching through eligible studies kasi you set forth a pre-specified criteria before you start, no? You search through all the eligible studies, you analyze them in a methodologic way. And then the meta-analysis is the part where you combine studies that are similar enough to get a numerical estimate. So if you want to think of it simply, yung systematic review is narrative and descriptive. It's a report of the studies that you got, how different, how similar they are to one another. Parang tatlong studies, ganitong in-enroll. Apat na studies, itong comparator. Ang outcome ng anim na studies, ganito. Pero the meta-analysis part combines the ones that are similar enough and puts together their numerical estimates. So kunyari, you found 3 studies. Yung first study, 100 ang patients. Yung second study, 50. Yung third study, 50 pa rin. So putting together their results gives you a sample size of parang 200. And given that maayos yung pagkagawa, mas strong, mas powerful yung results na mabibigay, or basically, mas precise yung estimate na mabibigay nung study na 200 versus yung pa isa-isang 100, tsaka 50, tsaka 50. So, parang ganun ang ginagawa niya. When systematic reviews and meta-analysis were first done, they were done in the context of intervention. So parang yung mga tanong about treatments lahat, treatments and prevention. So ang kinukuha ideally na studies for SR meta of intervention ay RCT, randomized controlled trials. Kasi yun yung pinakamataas na level pag efficacy and safety ang hinahanap mo. Pero hindi lang naman sa treatment pwedeng mag-SR meta. You have to remember this, important siya. So hindi lang sa treatment pwedeng mag-pull ng resulta. Pwede rin kayong mag-pull ng diagnostic accuracy studies. So pwedeng gumawa ng SR meta ng diagnostic accuracy studies. Pwede rin gumawa ng SR meta ng prognosis. Pwede rin gumawa ng association or harm. But by and large, yung sa Cochrane kasi, the Cochrane Manual or the Cochrane Collaboration focused nung una on just the treatment at ngayon gumagawa na ng diagnostic accuracy. Sila yung may ready software na pwedeng gamitin ng kahit hindi biostatistician. So there are materials available online or sometimes through institutional access. So pag may gagawa, we have this program we call Review Manager. Yun yung ginagamit natin to do the meta-analysis for our systematic reviews. So, yung binibigay ko sa inyo is just a general overview. Of course, you'll get more details when you read, no? But maybe one of the earliest things you'll have to learn is kung ang meta-analysis ay nagko-combine, it's a combination of the results of different studies to see a more precise estimate. How many studies do you need to perform a meta-analysis? Please type your answers in the chat box. Pwedeng to everyone, pwedeng to me lang. What do you think is the adequate number or how many studies at the very least do you need to perform a meta-analysis? Any answer is welcome. Go. Okay, thank you sa unang sumagot. Sagot pa. Sige pa. Ang cute naman ng mga sumasagot na may question mark tsaka may hehe. Okay, a few more answers and I'll discuss. So I see 100, 20 po, 50, 100, hehe, 2 po, 2, 2 po. Okay. If it were a strict formal question, ang answer dyan is 2. Okay, you need at least only 2 at the very least to conduct a meta-analysis. This is because sa dalawa, pwede ka nang mag-combine. Pero syempre, ang condition doon, yung dalawang yon should be similar enough. Kasi kung pinagpipilitan na similar sila, pero hindi naman talaga, like, magkaiba pala yung dose nung intervention na binigay, or magkaiba pala yung comparator nila, baka hindi sila magandang i-combine. And in those situations, in practical circumstances, I would prefer na wag na lang mag-meta-analysis kaysa ipilit. So may mga humabol pala na sagot, 7, meron din. So 2, okay? You only need 2 as long as they are similar enough. Ngayon, for purposes of pride, syempre ayaw mo namang tulan yung studies mo. So, how do we do that? Kailangan i-design mong mabuti yung search strategy mo na hindi lang dalawa yung makukuha mo as much as possible. Ngayon, kung talagang dalawa lang, you will have to examine yourself kung gagawin mo pa ba siya. And you will see there's a section in the talk where I said yung part na things to consider before you even embark. Like, do you have enough studies na? Kasi baka masyado pang bago yung topic, masyado pang new yung issue, na wala pang masyadong studies. And kung halimbawa, isa pa lang yung nagagawa or at the most, dalawa, baka hindi magandang idea na ipilit na kaya na to, pwede na to mag-meta-analysis kasi baka hindi man sila combinable. So you as the potential author, you have to decide if there's enough primary studies already. Parang the best balance would be yung meron ng enough that they have caused some question or controversy whether maigi ba tong treatment na to, is it efficacious and safe or hindi. And then kunyari 3 studies say yes, 5 studies say no, and then there's a true hindi natin alam ang sagot, then that's a good mix, that's a good number to begin with. Kasi kailangan mo ring i-balance yung wala pang studies doon sa sobra naman ng dami yung studies tas may mga gumawa na ng SR Meta. Kasi 'di ba parang isang tanong diyan, kung meron ng gumawa, pwede ka pa bang gumawa? Like we found 3 SR metas on the topic. Can we still make? Because we're really interested in this topic eh. What's the answer there? Yes, no? O, chat box ulit. What do you think? If you find that this review question you want to do, there were already SR metas that tried to answer it. Pwede pa bang gumawa? Okay, I have one answer. Yes. Sige pa, answer pa. I'd like to see the vote of the group. Okay, there's predominantly yes. O sige, yung mga sumagot, kung malakas ang loob, I'd like to know bakit yes. And how. And how will you answer na, may gumawa na ba't pa kayo gumawa? Anyone would like to speak up? Okay, the answer is yes. Pwede pang gumawa. Okay, there may be new updates or information regarding the topic po kasi very good. Actually, yun yung pinaka-common na reason. Pero ako, ang kina-question ko doon is, di sana yung original na lang na gumawa, sila na lang mag-update, di ba? Parang, hindi ba parang kinokopya lang natin kung mag-update tayo, na kukuhanin natin yung bago, tapos isasama natin dun sa dati nila. Hindi ba tayo parang nag-copy lang? Diba? So another answer is may have different POVs or interpretations. Totoo rin. So essentially, ang sagot ay oo kasi pwede mong bigyan ng bagong anggulo yung gagawin mo. For example, pwede kang maglagay ng bagong outcome na hindi ginawa ng ibang studies. Pwede kang mag-include ng additional population na hindi ginawa ng ibang studies. So kunyari, pero yun, that comes parang double-edged na kasi pag nag-include ka ng ibang population, tumataas yung variability ng study mo. So that's a thing that you have to handle. But basically, kunyari, yung SR Meta, nag-enroll lang sila ng adults from 40 to 60 years old, kunyari lang, yung study mo, pwede kang mag-include na hanggang 80 years old, iba na siya. And then a concrete example of the mag-include kayo ng ibang outcomes. I had a group before who did vitamin D alone or in combination as an adjunct to weight loss. So, yung nakakita na kami ng existing meta, pero yung mga existing meta, ang mga outcome measures nila usually, ano ba pinang-measure mo ng weight loss? Timbang, di ba? Timbang, BMI, waist to hip. So, karamihan sila ganon. So, naglagay kami ng measures ng ano, ng neck circumference, ng arm circumference, at ng mid-thigh circumference, which we felt were proper anthropometric measures. So, we supported these with review of literature na they are good measures of timbang and possibly fat, fat deposits in certain areas, depende sa edad mo. So, naka-report kami ng additional outcomes na wala doon sa original studies. And that study was accepted as a poster in the European Cardiology Congress parang a few years back. So, example lang na even with students, even as students, you can make very good studies, and the systematic review and meta-analysis is the type of study that you can make from home. Pero you have to be a team. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-isa kasi may mga appraisal na parts. Okay? So I think I'll end there. Basahin ko lang yung mga yung last na comment, may naglagay din pala na can contribute po additional information sa existing knowledge, which is true. Parang you have to update your SR metas with the new knowledge that's coming in. So thank you sa mga sagot. Thank you sa nag-participate, and I hope you get to read and absorb yung lahat ng shinare nating material on qualitative studies and systematic review and meta-analysis. Okay? So I think in a while your unit exam will be open, so you can proceed there. Thank you, Dr. Betita.